Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the minutes of October 5th.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions on the motion to approve the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. This time, we will ask for new public business. If you have a business before the selectmen, before the select board that is not on the agenda and you'd like to bring something to our attention, now is the time to do so. Anybody have any new business? Working on it. So, seeing none, public hearing will be held under Chapter 138 of the General Laws of the application of Massachusetts Fine Wines and Spirits LLC, doing business as Total Wine, Spirits, Beer and More, 100 Independence Way, Darren DeVito, manager, for a change of officers, directors, LLC managers, and change of manager of an all-alcoholic retail package store license at that location. Is there someone to speak to the application? Just a reminder, we are on DCAT, our local cable access television. That's why we ask people go to the podium, speak into the mic, and first state your name so we know who we're talking with.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members. Attorney Trish Farnsworth on behalf of the licensee, and with me is Darren DeVito, the manager. So this is a two-part application. One is to change the license manager to Mr. DeVito, who's been at the store and is well qualified. And the other is to change the LLC manager to Mr. Richard LaChapelle.
Is there any question from the board members? I'll start with Select Board Member Mills.
No questions, thank you.
Select Board Member Duggan?
Yeah, just one question for Mr. DeVito. How long have you been at this location?
It'll be 2 years this November, actually.
Okay, all right, that's
Yep.
great.
Thank you.
All right,
Select Board
well,
Member-
wish you success with the new title.
Thank you, thank you. We're putting a lot of things in process right now, so,
Okay.
thank you.
Select Board Member Bernard?
No questions.
Select Board Member Bennett?
Welcome back, no questions.
Thank you.
So I am looking for, is in the lengthy license, the number of hours you're going to be on location?
I'm scheduled for 55 hours a week.
Okay,
It obviously, with being retail, could be longer than that as well,
okay.
especially with the holidays approaching.
And, okay, and what town do you live in?
Wakefield.
Thank you. I just want to make sure someone's close enough. Thank you.
Yes, Wakefield.
Thank you, 50 hours, Wakefield. Then I'll ask because I want the public to be able to hear. I know that you answered the last, you are tip certified,
Yes, sir.
and we discussed at the previous meeting that you will assign alternate license.
Yes, I did list them
Okay,
on the.
and they're all tip certified,
Yes, sir.
and that at any time the business is open, a manager whose name is on the license will be in the building.
Yes, sir.
Okay, is a responsible party.
And also, if there's any changes needed, we'll report that in as well.
Yes. And you're acquainted with the Danvers liquor guidelines?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Those are all my questions. This is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak to this? Mr. Bradstreet, did you have a comment, sir?
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. This change will have no effect on the license suspension that's being held in abeyance, will it?
It will not. It does not go with the name of the person on the license. It goes with the business that we've experienced the issue.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any other public comments?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I'll entertain a motion on the application for the two, for the change in LLCs as well as the change on the manager on the liquor license.
Motion as written.
Motion made
Second.
and second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Good luck in your endeavors.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
The board will vote to accept a gift from the Friends of Endicott Park in accordance with NGL Chapter 44, Section 53A. Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You received an email in your packets between our Director of Natural Resources, Chris Sanborn, and Ann Freitas in my office. Chris was sharing the very exciting news that the Friends had voted to authorize up to $8,000 in expenditures to maintain the community gardens, including signage, roadway, and brush clearing at the site. So what the board is being asked to do tonight is formally accept that so that the funds can be spent for those purposes.
Any questions by the board?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Select Board Member Duggan, go ahead.
So the community gardens, they charge the folks that they kind of rent the plots for the year? So where does that, is that money that's collected for that included in this $8,000? Do you know?
I couldn't give you the technical answer. I can circle back with
So
you
where
on
did
that.
the 8,000 come from? The Friends or?
Through
they
the
just-
Friends, probably fundraising for the
Yeah.
Friends of Endicott.
Okay. Just concerned about the gardens because there's been some questions about how that money was being spent that was collected from the farmers. That's all. That's
Okay.
why I was asking. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Select Board Member Bernard?
No questions.
Select Board Member Bennett?
I think Matt's question has a large bearing on this motion or this gift. Where does all that funds from? He called them farmers, that's being very generous. Well, my wife's amongst them. So where does that money go? Who collects it? I'm sure there's a good answer, but perhaps it's something we should be aware of.
What I would suggest is that I'll circle back with Mr. Sanborn tomorrow morning and we can provide a report to the board at the next meeting on that question. Any others that you have either now or want to follow up with me on?
Who pays to keep the wells running? Is there an expense there? So I'm sure there's some expense that goes with running the gardens, the wells, lawnmowers, et cetera. Is there somebody that handles that budget?
I don't have a specific answer off the top of my head. Given the relationship with the park, I trust that there is certainly involvement with the rangers and town funds for things like mowing, but I can ask Chris for a very
Yeah, it's just,
specific.
I'm sure there's oversight, and I'm sure it's good oversight, but Matt raised the question, and I think it's a very good question.
Yep. I think there's a garden council. That's a group of residents that kind of manage the money. I think that's how I think the garden council reports to, it used to be Mr. Townley. I'm not sure who it would be now, maybe Mr. Sanborn. All right, just good information to know.
Select Board Member Mills?
No questions, thank you.
So, this is a gift from the Friends of Endicott Park to the town, so that it says here specifically for maintenance improvements to the community gardens, including signage, roadway work, and brush clearing. I'm not sure I understand the necessity for us to know how the Friends of Endicott Park receive those funds. I've been in many of us have been in many organizations where there's a Friends of the Senior Center, Friends of the River Committee, Friends of many things, for which, because the town cannot solicit non-taxpayer money for programs, the Friends of can, as long as they don't use town resources, as long as they don't use town people. So I will use an example. Eileen Labby would go out and solicit funds for Santa by Sea, and that paid for Santa by Sea. And so the Friends groups are a specific legitimate organization meant to be able to do some fundraising outside of taxation for the benefit of whichever there are, Friends of Senior Center, Friends of whatever it is. So I'm not sure knowing what they charge and how they charge and where it goes is necessary to accept a gift.
I'm not arguing about accepting the gift, it's just a question that we'd like the answer to, is where those funds go. Accepting the gift from the Friends is certainly appropriate at this time.
Okay.
I just want to have, and then that, answer those questions.
Okay.
Can I add a comment?
Sure.
So what jumped out for me is that improvements will include signage, roadway work, and brush clearing. Those sound like activities that would be funded by the town as part of the maintenance of Endicott Park, so,
And they would.
yeah.
And they would, and what they're saying is if they weren't allotted for in the taxation or the current planning, here's a way to pay for those things that we think are important and kind of get them on the list.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Those are my comments. This is not public hearing. So is there any other comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the gifts from the Friends of Endicott Park in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A.
And with a letter of thanks from the chairman. We have a motion
Second?
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The town clerk will request that the board vote to approve the new precinct boundaries in accordance with the 2020 federal census. We did get some documents today. The memo we got in that packet is accurate. The map that we got tonight is even more accurate. Madam Town Clerk.
Okay, so what, if anybody in the audience or at home is looking for the latest map, the one that I'm asking to be approved, you can find that map on the town website under tonight's meeting or under the town meeting section of the website.
Kathy, I also have one extra if anybody wants to fight for it.
Okay.
You guys want? Okay, yeah, we have a winner.
Tim?
So I did get a call yesterday from the Secretary of State's office with a concern about one of the precinct lines over on Seneca Longbow in Precinct 4. So I worked with the Secretary of State, and we were able to shift some things around a little bit. So what we were able to do is put Precinct 4 back to where it is today. So there will be no changes to Precinct 4, Precinct 7, or Precinct 2. Precinct 6 is going to absorb a piece of Precinct 8 up on the top section. Then there are a couple of minor changes down in Precinct 3 and Precinct 1. I think there's a little section that jumped out of Precinct 5. But overall, I calculated out, and it's a total change of like just over 500 people from a population perspective. So I think it's a good map. It's generated the least amount of changes. Just to go over some of the other information that if people haven't seen it, on this map, there are black lines. The black lines are indicating the current precinct lines. The colored sections are the new precinct lines. No precinct can have more than 4,000 residents. Each precinct must be within 5% of the average. The new boundaries will take effect December 31st. I will have a workshop at the beginning of the town meeting workshop for the fall zoning on November 13th, I believe, Saturday, for town meeting members to go over the election process. I've confirmed with town council and the Secretary of State's office that it's a complete reset of all town meeting members, regardless as to whether the precinct is changing or not. And that's pretty much it, unless you have any questions. I'm looking for a motion to approve the map.
There is a motion you presented in the...
Yes.
But just this, not the important details.
No,
Just the one sentence.
Just that one sentence is fine.
Thank you. Questions from board members? Select Board Member Bernard?
None.
Select Board Member Bennett?
None?
Select Board Member Mills?
Nice job, Kathy. No, I have no questions.
Select Board Member Duggan?
All set.
And I have no questions.
Motion to accept the 2020 re-precincting plan for the town of Danvers as presented by the town clerk.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. The board will review the town manager's evaluation for fiscal 2021. So this is our usual exercise. In reviewing the town manager, the fiscal year starts on July 1st, 2020, and would have ended on June 30th, 2021. and we're evaluating the work he did based on criteria that was decided the previous year. We set aside 5 specific strategic major performance objectives, 5 operational performance objectives, and then we leave room for strategic major performance objectives that could not have been planned for, could not have been, that we feel as individuals deserve special notation. We scale each of these items on a scale of 0 to 5, and the 0 to 2.99 is unacceptable, 3 to 3.5 is needs improvement, 3.5 to 4 is meets expectations, 4 to 4.5 is exceeds expectations, and 4.5 to 5 is outstanding. Each of us take a pass at it. I then compiled everybody's individual responses into a spreadsheet, and when all is said and done, the bottom line after all of the weighted averages based on the board's decision about what the objectives are and how much weight each has, the end result is that the overall rating was a 4.16, which puts the rating in the exceeds expectations category as an overall rating. There were ratings across the spectrum, and board members offered their thoughts and also their comments and written comments. This board went into executive session this evening to discuss those with the town manager, talk through any questions he or the board members had about the ratings and about the comments they provided. He took the feedback and offered some thoughts, but we'll reflect on the feedback that the select board has provided and the ratings, and discuss opportunities for improvement where necessary, and go forward with that. At this time, I'll open to the board members if they would like to discuss the process or their comments that they provided or their rankings that they provided. I'll start with Select Board Member Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Every year we go through this process where we review the manager's performance, the town's performance, outcomes for the past year, the strategic major performance objectives, usually pretty goal-orientated. Part B is the operational performance, that's doing his job every year, the financial management, personal management, general management, customer service, etc. And like any analysis, our ratings amongst each individual are really on a range and just spread out. We don't all rate every category the same. It's all a matter of our perception, our experiences, what we hear in the community about the performance of the manager and the job being done. And every year, Steve, as our town manager, has performed admirably, is the word I'll use, above expectation. And the rating this year is a 4.16, which is commendable, and very happy that we were able to come up with a number. And we all agree that there are some issues in the community. Some of them are perception, some of them are not, some of them are unrealistic, some are realistic. But we take everything that we hear, everything that we perceive, everything that we see, our interaction with the manager, to give him a rating for this past year's performance. And I think we're all pretty much in agreement with the number that we came up with, which was the 4.16. Thank you.
Thank you. Select Board Member Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My vote 6 years ago to invite Steve to be our town manager remains the most important vote that I have made as a member of this board. I think Steve has done a superb job under all kinds of constraints and problems in the last couple of years, And I also adopt everything that my colleague Dan Bennett has said, and I have nothing else to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Select Board Member Duggan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'll just kind of just delve in a couple of points. I rated the town manager highest on financial management. I think we all agree that with the exceptional bond rating that we have, and that the way that we can handle our finances puts us above and beyond what other communities in the area enjoy. I did have a lower ranking for personnel management, just based on comments that I've heard from residents and also from employees of the town. I think the pandemic has kind of turned things upside down for a lot of people, and they're outside their comfort zone. So I think that may have had a lot to do with it. But I think at the end of the day, my final numbers, I think, were in line with the other board members. So I'm satisfied with the overall rating. I think it's accurate, and I don't really have anything else to add other than that.
Thank you, Matt. Select Board Member Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, want to adopt what Member Bennett and Duggan are also saying. Like, this was an average of everybody. Some people were high, some people were low, some people were in the middle. I do think that the COVID-19 has been a big impact on the town, and the town manager did a good job. I feel Steve is very strong with the financials, and he is approachable, which is great. I, too, during our executive session, which we can't really talk about, but did bring up some concerns about personnel and employee retention and things like that. So I think Steve has some good ideas, and we all talked it out, and we need to move forward. And I'd like to, stay engaged in this personnel changes within the town, and we want to keep the people here in the town as much as we can. And change is tough for everybody. And we talked about what I brought up last time about, as silly as it sounds, the telephone system and making town hall. People feel welcome to come to town hall, and Steve is, he's taken a lot of notes, so I feel confident that we're going to work through some of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. My ratings, were, I don't think I had anything that was unacceptable. I know I didn't have anything that was unacceptable, or we would have talked about it specifically, or needs improvement. I think that there was some that would, there are rooms, we've all heard the same discussions about personnel, but there's a difference between perception and reality. And the town management and the town itself, administration, is cobbled. When people come out with rumors about this person, this role, that role, this is a personnel issue. And the town administration can't simply discuss what went on. Whether they can't say your facts are wrong, they can't affirm or deny any of those facts simply because that's not what they do. My department, my company's HR department would never discuss in public, an employee action or decision or direction. So it's rife for a lot of conjecture, it's rife for a lot of conspiracy, it's rife for a lot of misinformation getting out there, and there's just simply no way to do that. Every single case that we've discussed has its own nuance, has its own reason, has its own issues, and other than the person who's being affected in the town, no one knows the whole of the story. So we get swept up in, 5 people have left in a certain amount of time, or 8 people, whatever the number is. But we have to put it in the context of the fact that COVID has made many, many, many people decide to change jobs. Many people change jobs with nothing to do with the town and their happiness with the town, but they get a better opportunity that the town can't match. The town can't, I'll use the former library director as an example. He liked the job. He did a great job. Everybody was happy with the job he was doing, and he seemed to really excel at it. But he got offered during COVID a job that was closer to his home for a larger community at more money. Well, money doesn't solve anything, and you also don't want to bust our budget based on money. But there's no way we were going to overcome the proximity to his house, and there's no way we were going to overcome the fact that he was going to get a job in a larger community and that would add to his professional growth. So each case is different, each case is separate. We have had discussions about some of the perceptions and some of the things we hear, and we do bring them to the town manager when we hear them. I'm hoping that this year is, because this is all this, for the most part, most of this happened during the fiscal year that we are talking about, the things that we've been talking about. And we'll kind of settle down, and it won't actually be a topic point for next year, would be my hope. But also remind people that between July 1st of last year and June of this year, we've had some pretty unprecedented, unplanned, unforeseeable issues. We had the thin blue line issue that came to town. We had the Unitarian Church issue. We had the Connors Farm issue. That's Connors Farm is close to this year. But we've had to deal with a lot of things that there's no way to anticipate. And I believe that the town has reacted soundly when it comes to dealing with some of these issues. We have, my comment was, the handling the Unitarian Church and the Connors Farm, I recognize, they may happen in this current fiscal year, but they demonstrate a continued pattern to fully face and respond to controversial actions that marginalize members of our community in a direct, open, and unflinching manner. We take responsibility for ourselves. We say so. We put out press releases that say these actions aren't acceptable in our community. And when it's our responsibility and the town's responsibility, we don't try to hide it or shy away from it. That's the only way to deal with these issues. So I'm very pleased to have given an overall rating. My overall rating would be 4.61 out of 5. But then when it gets distilled into everybody else's rating, the overall rating for the cumulative nature is 4.16. So with that, those are the numbers we all provided, and that's kind of a statement 4.16. At this point, we turn to talking about the manager's compensation and any action thereon. A couple of things. We do have a senior management rubric or process by which, based on performance, there's a COLA portion of it, and then there's a performance-based section of it that, depending on the ranking you used to get different amounts. We recently applied it to the senior management team, and because of I think it's 21 senior management team members, there was varied raises provided, or salary actions provided, based on their individual formula. It's very formulaic. When they get this rating, plug it in, match it against their current salary, and out comes the number at the end. We have the latitude to, and have in the past, provide other resources like travel allowance or seminars, so on and so forth. And so I would be looking to the board to consider applying that rubric as we do with the other senior leadership team, and open it up for any discussion about what compensation action we should have with the town manager. I'll open it to anybody who wants to have that first comment or make a motion.
Well, Mr. Chairman, as you said, if I may, given that we do have a management compensation plan, there is a formula with a COLA and a merit raise, and with Steve's 4.16, that would be a COLA of 2% and a merit raise of 1.5%, which is in keeping with what the other managers got if they were in that rating. And just a note, last year there were no raises, as I believe, for our management, and Steve included. So this would be based upon nothing last year, and this year 2 and 1.5, and that's my motion.
The motion is 3.5.
Totally, yes.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. And I'll open discussion on the motion, and I'll start. Dan, any other comments as you
Nope,
made the motion?
all set.
David?
Nothing further. I think it's very thoughtful. I think it's fair considering the market especially, and I would hate to have to go to market to find a replacement for this manager. And so I think this is good, and if it's comfortable for the rest of the board, it's comfortable for me.
Select Board Member Duggan?
Sure. So I agree with the 4.16. That's at the low range of exceeds expectations. It's seems reasonable, especially in light of the challenges that we've had over the past year and a half. It's I think it reflects well on the work that the manager and his staff have provided for the residents. So I would support this motion.
Thank you. Select Board Member Bernard?
No comment.
Okay. So I too will support this, especially in light of the fact that this is based on a salary that's been carried for 2 years. You know, it's just to hammer home what Dan had said was the entire management staff last year took 0%. They knew we were facing a critical time of, you know, with COVID. They made a decision themselves to go with 0%. We're not trying to make up for that time. We're applying the calculated amount, and so I would be very happy to support 3.5. Any other comments or questions? All in favor of the motion of a 3.5 increase in compensation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Please feel
offer
free to
some-
comment.
First and foremost, thank you. I'll be 7 years here in December, and I think I say every year, the numerical scores are fine, but what's really helpful for me is the feedback, the written feedback I received through this process and then throughout the year. So I'm grateful to have your continued support. It's a good organization with good employees, and I thoroughly enjoy being in the position that I'm in and working for this town. And I look forward to sitting with you all soon to kind of resurrect the program we had pre-COVID, which was to have the annual check-ins to really dive deep and get to the bottom of what works and what doesn't, and how to make you as effective as you can be, which is really central to my job, is giving you the information you need to do your job. So I appreciate it, and that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much. The town manager will report to the board on various items of interest. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few brief items tonight. I actually don't know when, as a Detroit Tigers fan, I don't pay much attention to playoff baseball, but I guess there's a game tonight, so I won't go on for too long, although I think first pitch probably isn't for a while. Just first briefly, a number of the dates on the second page of your agenda tonight have to do with the upcoming special town meeting. The warrant did close at 4 p.m. yesterday, as voted by this board. We did receive the citizens petition that was discussed at the last meeting. That came in well in advance of the deadline, but that was the petition for the Plains train station. So that will be in the warrant that this board reviews on November 2nd. And my understanding is that the planning board will be continuing and potentially closing, I would say hopefully closing their hearing next Tuesday on the 26th. And then staff will be able to make any final changes that need to be made to the draft warrant, which will be sent out to this board electronically and in paper form in advance of the meeting on the 2nd. The goal after the 26th is to start producing the warrants for town meeting members as well, so that they can have time to acclimate as we move into the Finance Committee hearing and then the workshop that the town clerk referenced, which will be on Saturday the 13th in this room. We'll spend a little time answering questions, or I should say Kathy will answer questions having to do with the re-precincting, because I'm sure town meeting members will have questions about that. And then we'll also have relevant staff on hand to continue with the trend we've done in recent years, which is to offer an informal setting ahead of town meeting for members who want to ask questions that aren't necessarily, that don't lend themselves to being asked on the floor of town meeting. So it's historically been a good opportunity for town meeting members to come and have dialogue with staff to get some of those questions answered before they get to the bright lights of town meeting. I have Pleased to report, we will be advertising the equity and inclusion position potentially.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yep.
Can I get the manager to confirm the Saturday workshop location?
This is a typo, and I appreciate you pointing that out. I believe it's in this room. It should be in the Toomey room, not in the,
Okay, because my thing says middle school.
I will double check. I believe that's a typo.
Thank you. Question mark. Okay, I'm
And
sorry.
before you move off that, generally, just for the benefit of the new members, there's usually there will be a selectman's representative at the finance committee hearing meetings. I will attend on behalf of the board. There's almost never any questions for the select board members, but everybody's welcome to attend. And I'll represent our votes on warrant articles and others if there's questions. And the skull session is for those who may not have participated in the past. The town moderator sits with the various department heads. We discuss each of the articles. We discuss who will present if there's questions. For example, if it's it would be Steve Kulis if we were talking about the taking of land. Some things will be taken on point by the town manager, myself, others, and we just organize that so we're ready. And the town manager kind of knows where to look, because in that room, as you know, sometimes it's difficult to see who's waving their hands or nodding. So it helps her organize where to look when certain things come up and who will be the first person to take a question. Generally, it's the select board chair, but then who will I defer to? And we want to make sure they're prepared and ready in case needed. The skull session is basically a administrative meeting to organize that. But people are welcome to sit in, it's a public meeting. Thank you. Anything else? Anybody have any other questions on the special town meeting? Yes, Mr. Mills.
Select board meeting on Tuesday, November 19th. I assume that's incorrect, and it should be the 16th.
Shouldn't it? It's not going to be a Friday the 19th.
Is that in the box?
At the bottom of the first page, Steve, on the agenda, the next select board meetings,
That is a typo.
so it's the 16th, Tuesday,
Thank
the
you.
night after town meeting.
Thank you. Can I go on?
Yes. I'm sorry, was there any other questions about town meeting from any of the board
Thank you,
members?
thank you, Ted.
No? Yes, please, Mr. Town Manager.
I was starting to say we'll be advertising the equity and inclusion position potentially as early as this week. I met with the superintendent and the library director to share the thoughts, and certainly they've seen the report that was produced in April, but that is ready to go. And there is also a meeting scheduled for, actually tomorrow morning. We'll be meeting with the chair and vice chair of the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. They've also been doing some work and some planning based on the report and the recommendations contained therein. And I will report back out to this board in terms of what they have in mind, what they've been working on at the committee level. Briefly, I wanted to make mention, we had initially thought we'd be doing the warrant review tonight, so we had planned to have Mr. Henry and Mr. Mosier come and offer an update on the airport as requested by the board. Given that Mr. Henry will be here on the 2nd for the warrant review rather than tonight, I'd asked the chair if it would be all right to have him provide that update then, so he wasn't attending both meetings, and he would only be attending the 2nd. So we will have the update on the general update on the airport as part of that agenda on the 2nd. Very briefly, there's a question at the last meeting about Halloween, and there's a very colorful, very detailed packet of information that was provided in your agendas. And I can probably summarize it in one sentence. As with last year, the recommendation from Health and the Police Department is be sensible, use caution. If you're going to go out, there are low risk, middle risk, and high risk activities, but certainly people are welcome to celebrate Halloween. We would just offer some guidance, again, through the Board of Health and the Police Department in terms of how to make it safe and fun for everybody. And then the last piece, you did receive a copy of the letters that went out from the, with support of the board after the last meeting regarding the legislation at the state, looking at making Columbus Day Indigenous Peoples' Day. So that those letters did go out after the last meeting. And that's all that I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on the town manager's report?
I have a question about the new position that you mentioned, about the, what was the title again?
Directory of Equity and Inclusion.
Okay. So I thought there were discussions about the, whether or not that needed to be an FTE, that there may have been an opportunity to maybe leverage kind of a shared role with another community and kind of share the, share the cost, because, hiring someone full-time for that position, it seems, I'm not sure that's actually necessary. I mean, we definitely need some guidance, but I don't know if it's a full-time position. I was thinking maybe we could do 20 hours here in Danvers and then maybe 20 hours in another community. It seems like it's an expense to hire someone, and then you have all the incidental costs with, the benefits and so forth. So has there been a lot of thought given about how to fund this position?
The short answer is yes. I mean, I've been working on this job description really since the summer. We looked at probably a dozen or so other job descriptions that are, from both within the Commonwealth and elsewhere to try to get a sense of what made sense for Danvers, using the report and the recommendation in the report kind of as the starting point, and then consulting with the superintendent to try to understand what their needs are. I do think the position will be busy. Really, the three pillars of the position as we've designed it are workforce training and development, community outreach and engagement, and policy review. And it's a position that we plan to make available to the library for programs and work that they want to do, as well as the school system. And certainly stepping in and providing leadership to the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, which we haven't had since Susan Fletcher retired. So we did put a lot of thought into, could we share this position? I think that the nature of the work, we would have done a disservice trying to either ask other employees to take on the duties or try to ask somebody to do this work in a meaningful way for our community and a very different community, which isn't to say that there won't be collaboration between these positions, but Swampscott has a full-time position doing this work, and that person's very busy. So it's becoming a need, I would argue. The other piece that we looked at, we haven't really, our ADA plan is out of compliance. We haven't had somebody really dedicated to doing that truly since Susan left. So that's also a role that this person can pick up and run with and make sure that we're doing what we need to do with, as an equal opportunity employer, with ADA, and certainly with the work that was kind of identified and sort of thought through as part of the process to make the recommendation able to this board. So.
Yeah, the reason I ask, because I recall when the welcoming committee presented their report, one of the members spoke publicly that it really wasn't important what the role was. It was more important just to hire someone. So I just thought that was kind of the cart before the horse. So it seems from what you've just explained that you've given a lot more thought. Will the person, because it's a specialized role, they'll be available for the school department as well? Because I think that's where the behaviors, you catch them early on. People that have been, and older folks kind of are set in their ways. So it's the school-aged population, I think, that we need to target the most to kind of, set what the correct behaviors are. So I would hope that this new person could be available to the school department.
So the person will work in or close to my office, but be available as a resource. And I know the superintendent has expressed, certainly they welcome the opportunity to have somebody to come in. some communities make these school-based positions, but then they generally only end up being school-based positions, and we've designed it a little differently so that we'll make the person available, frankly, as much as needed, but we want to be able to have this person work with the human rights group to do community engagement and dialogue, and also helping us with building. We do a lot of employee training, but building on that and making it impactful and meaningful as well. So I think we'll keep the person very busy.
Garrett?
Yes, please.
Steve, essentially, wasn't the position kind of the unanimous recommendation of the welcoming committee?
It was highlighted by the committee because a lot of what was included in the report, there are some things in the report that were going to happen regardless. So, for example, the Interfaith Council may pick up one of the recommendations and work on that. There may be community groups that pick up and work on some of the things. But a lot of the initiatives really required a person to coordinate and lead. And the group felt pretty clear that if we were trying to ask somebody who already had a job to do to take on these things, it was going to be done poorly. And it was too important not to give it the attention that it deserved. So it was pulled out of the report, and I think what the report said was a lot of these other recommendations require this particular recommendation to move forward.
And I also, Steve mentioned Susan Fletcher. I don't know how many years, she's been 3 or 4 years away. But for 15 years, she was the backbone of what was initially the Diversity Committee, and then the Inclusion Committee, and the Human Rights. And so she did a wonderful job also balancing responsibilities for several other citizen boards within the kind of under the planning department. And then I also want to mention that Eileen Page was assigned to the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago. She's no longer with the town, but she did an enormous amount of work. And so we've been very lucky with those two people. And so hopefully this new person will kind of take over a administrative role with HRIC.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That sounds good to me.
Any other comments or questions for the town manager on his report?
I do.
Yes, please.
I was on the Welcome Committee. It was a great committee. Really enjoyed it. However, I also feel the same way as Select Member Duggan. I didn't think it was going to be a FTE position. I thought it was I agree with him, maybe something with 20 hours, 25 hours. Once again, we want to keep costs down for the town. It's something new. I think we should try it. Let's start with baby steps. We talk about policies and procedures. I think, as David mentioned with Eileen Page, she did a great job. I would think that something like that would, as he said, job share would fall under the HR department too, because that's where I thought the policies, procedures, and training would come from. So I do think that there is a need. I like the comment about starting them young in the schools. I think that's great, because that's where we need to, but I don't think that it should be a full-time job at this time.
So I'm going to offer an alternate view of that. I think it should be. I think that this is not something that is a learn-as-you-go opportunity. We want someone who's a seasoned professional. We want someone who knows what they're talking about, who's already done their growth potential in learning these roles. And in today's economy, it is a seller's market. If you're an employee, you call the shots, basically. I don't think, if you look on the MMA website, you'll find literally hundreds of jobs for municipalities. I think, given that this is a municipality that's trying to hire someone for a specific role, I don't think you're going to get someone part-time, and I'm not sure that, and I certainly do not think this is something we want to start with existing people learning the role, or people who haven't. This is a professional position. It's like HR. There are things that when you hire an HR director or an HR professional, it's because they are professional in HR. You do groom some people up under that person, but I don't think this is a new role, and I'm going to suggest it is a role that is full-time. I'm the one who suggested job sharing, and I'm sure that the town manager has asked whether that's an opportunity, but the surrounding communities with the same role, it's full-time. Beverly, it's full-time. Salem, it's full-time. I think Peabody has someone that's full-time. I don't think we have the latitude to grow someone or ask for a part-time person in this position. You talked about see if it works out. If it doesn't work out, it's like any other role that may or may not work out with the person we select. Hopefully it does. So I think if you're gonna advertise for the role and ask for certain responsibilities and knowledge and education, you have to expect that that person's gonna want a full-time job. So, any other comments or thoughts?
I agree.
Any other comments or thoughts on any part of the town manager's updates? Hearing none, we'll move to correspondence, select board members, new business, new public business updates, and select board closing comments. And I will start with select board member Mills.
Speaking of the Human Rights and Inclusion Committee, the monthly meeting is this coming Thursday at the training room at the police station. Of course, everybody is welcome. It's an open meeting. We do not have a simulcast online, but it's a very interesting agenda, and it is a very, very, very active committee these days. And the other thing is that I think maybe everybody got a comment by a citizen about some traffic issue up on Route 95. And I believe that there was some attention given by Rob Sullivan from the police department, which I read the response. It seemed to be highly competent, but also it seems to be something really not within the town's jurisdiction because it has to do with the layout of the state highway. So I'm not making any further, I'm not making a response to the citizen because I thought that what Detective Sullivan did was fine. And furthermore, I would just turn it over to the town manager because I'm not going to respond to that. But that's all, the only thing that popped up this week.
For that email you're speaking to, that was actually an email to our representatives.
Oh, was it?
Sally Curran and Joan Lovely, and we were CC'd as a courtesy. But
Oh, okay.
even as a courtesy, the town manager has already responded and followed up with the police department. Do you want to offer anything?
The town engineer forwarded the concerns on to his counterpart with the state, and what Lieutenant Sullivan offered was some detail. The concern had to do with what had been a ramp that people used to, like an acceleration and deceleration lane, that I think it's Route 1, not Route 95, was being rebuilt. It appears that it may be that the lane looks like it's intended to be used for something that it's not. So this may be a signage issue or a striping issue that can be remedied. But I thought the lieutenant did a great job of explaining to our rep and center what was happening on the ground. But engineering and police are aware of the concern, and will work with the state to make sure that the final project comes out to to make sure that it's safe for the residents up there in those apartments to get in and out of their complex.
Guard, can I mention one other thing? I'm sorry. McDonald's has a new sign on their out driveway, which totally blocks oncoming traffic from High Street. And if I were the attorney for the landowner, I don't know if McDonald's owns it, I would say that is a really awful thing to do because there's a lawsuit pending there. Now, I frequently come out of Hyde Street to turn left onto Pine Street, and there is a bush there which totally blocks oncoming traffic coming from Holton Street down to Sylvan Street. That's also a lawsuit in the making. But I remember a couple of years ago, and actually I worked on a case up at the appeals court in which a town, I think it was a town or a city, was held responsible for not trimming bushes, which blocked a stop sign, and somebody went through it, and there was a very bad accident, and the municipality was held, at least in part, responsible for that. Would be a lot of work, but we have employees, we have a It used to be the shade tree department. It might be a forestry department. But those things are really scary to me. I know at the end of Chester Street, I think it was where Chester joins Ash Street, I was complaining often about the maple tree that was hanging down in front of the stop sign there. That got fixed. But otherwise, there are other places in the town where that stuff is really dangerous and somebody's going to get hurt bad. So just to mention it again, thank you.
David, can you repeat the bush, the intersection you described? I think you said
The
Hyde, but I think I might have
serious bush,
misheard.
Steve, and of course, when the leaves fall off the trees, it might not be so bad. It's coming out Hyde Street.
Near Chestnut? No.
Well,
Pine.
the Hyde Street connects with Pine Street.
Pine, okay.
And it's on that corner of a private residential land. There's a big, scary bush. And then the other one, Chester Street has been taken care of.
Okay.
But it's the Dunkin' Donuts sign, how anybody could kind of put that up. And frankly, seems to me that would be part of site plan, whatever site plan was approved for the McDonald's location. I don't think that, you can just put up a sign without going to the planning board to modify a special permit. No big deal, but there is supervision there because it's a very dangerous, and those are just the two that pop into my mind every day because I use those locations, and I know there's others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Select Board Member Duggan.
Just a couple of things. So first with the rail trail, we have a dedication for a new bicycle repair station that was installed recently. The dedication's going to be next Wednesday, 10/27 at noontime. And you may have seen, there's a couple of repair stations already on the trail. One is at Pond Street and the other is at the Putnamville Playground. It contains a tire pump and some assorted wrenches and screwdrivers so you can do minor repairs on your bicycle. So those have been well received in the past. This new one is donated, and it's already located at on the rail trail at the Danvers Wenham line right by Choate Farm there, and it was donated by the Electric Insurance Company in memory of a former employee, Norman Walzek. And Norman was an enthusiastic rail trail volunteer, and we really depend on volunteers to keep the trail in tip-top shape. So he was very enthusiastic. He always volunteered his time. And Norman was a Danvers resident. He was a graduate of the prep, and he was a 40-year employee of GE Insurance. So again, the dedication is next Wednesday at noontime. Mile marker 4.3. So if you happen to be out on the trail at lunchtime, you're welcome to join us.
Thank you, Matt.
The next item is just a reminder. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but for this coming weekend is the DPW Zero Waste Recycling Weekend at the high school. So I think it's been 2 years since we've done this, so I'm sure people have lots of stuff stored up in their garage that they are looking to bring to this event. And it's metal, rigid plastics, textiles, electronics, and the always popular paper shredding of those important documents that people have. And there's more info at the town website about the specifics. And just the last thing is wish everyone a safe and happy Halloween. Hopefully the weather will be nice and warm. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Select Board Member Bernard.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to all the runners, walkers who participated in the Lynch Memorial 5K race, well, not race, or fundraiser. Thank you to everybody that was there volunteering. Not really much to report. We're going to have a lot of meetings. We have the Danvers Housing Affordable Trust meeting tomorrow night, and then we have the Danvers Housing with Cindy Dunn and her group Thursday, along with Matt with the Rail Trail Thursday night too. But other than that, hopefully the kids will have a fun and safe Halloween. Thank you. And that's it. Not much to report. Thank you.
So I'll go and then ask Dan to go last. So the Affordable Housing Trust is tomorrow. We actually had a field trip on Saturday. As we've described to the board and let the board know, we would be looking at land the town owns that might be capable of supporting a affordable housing home. We identified 3 lots, and 2 of them don't seem to be at all opportunities we wish to pursue. There is one more. We have to do some due diligence. If we decide to take it further, we'll obviously come to the board next with some suggestions and plans and a request for a motion. It may or may not happen. There's a lot of mitigating factors right now about the neighborhood where it's located, some items some actions that will be happening around it, and whether we want to wait or not. But the Affordable Housing Trust is always working on trying to achieve truly affordable housing in the town of Danvers. Whether we're the driver of that or a participant in that has happened in various ways over the various years. Don't want anybody in the neighborhoods who may have seen us to get all worried about anything or get prematurely upset or concerned. This is a long hike, and we've only taken the first step in the long hike. And we may not take any more, depending on what the board wants to do, the trust wants to do. I have asked the town manager previously, I'm mentioning something that I asked a while back. COVID is a new normal. These meetings, I think, are beneficial to have in public. I would prefer that all the boards and commissions be publicly held at this point. There's value in having an audience member stand up and having an exchange. However, the world has changed, and I've asked the town manager to look into hybrid meetings where participants can be joined from remotely, not necessarily the board or commission members, but the participants who can't make it to the audience. We want to encourage people to participate in their own government. We want them to come and bring up new business, offer their thoughts under public comment. And I think this is actually a manner in which we can encourage people to participate. The more participation, the better. The better the decision-making, the better the discussion and thoughtfulness of what's happened at the agenda item. So I'd like to maybe hear a report and a couple of meetings from our technology leads and those that would be the right people, responsible people to respond, and then and move in a direction that allows for remote participation as well. I don't have anything else, so with that, I'll turn it over to Select Board Member Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And folks out there, remember Halloween, stay safe, stay alert. If you see a veteran, say thank you. Please, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
With that, I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you, Danvers. Thank you, board members.